can we prove that God exists? From a philosophical standpoint or a scientific standpoint, I understand that many arguments have been put forth to try to prove the existence of God. But God, by definition, transcends nature, right? He is our creator. By definition, a God who is transcendent is unsearchable. I understand the Kalam cosmological argument. I understand the argument from irreducible complexity. I understand the ontological argument for the existence of God. I understand the argument for the existence of God from morality, but I'm not really inclined to use any of those arguments because ultimately, even though those arguments are profitable, even though those arguments can show us that we are reasonable in believing in the existence of God, they do not prove the existence of God. Dr. Lyle wrote a book once called The Ultimate Proof of a Creator. At least that was the topic of the book. I don't recall the exact title. But in this book, he talked about how Christians and the Christian church and the advance of Christianity is actually proof of a creator God. And I sympathize with that. I'm more likely to use that sort of argument than either the cosmological or the argument from irreducible complexity or the argument from morality or any of those. But still, we don't get to proof of a creator. We have proof of a common worldview. That's what we have proof of, and there must be a source to that common worldview, and there must be a source of the power of conversion. So we prove that there must be a source of this belief and this change in life, a source from which the church grows exponentially despite so much opposition in the world. Okay, so there must be a source. But I am ultimately going to go back to the authenticity and reliability of Scripture. If God is real and he is transcendent, like he must be by definition, and therefore unsearchable, the only way for us to know that God exists is for him to reveal himself. Ultimately, we believe he revealed himself in the person of Jesus, a historical human person that we can prove existed and died on a cross, and we can prove by looking at eyewitness testimony that people saw him after he was crucified and dead and buried, saw him and touched him and filled him and experienced him. So we can basically prove the resurrection historically. So God, if Jesus is one with God, we have evidence right there in the historical figure, in the person of Jesus. If Jesus really rose from the dead, he really is who he claimed to be, right? So we have reliability in that testimony, reliability in that teaching, authenticity there regarding the truth of the matter. Jesus Christ is the fullness of the revelation of God. Jesus existed. Jesus is who he says he was. Therefore, God exists. Also, regarding the scriptures as a whole, people who knew Jesus wrote about him. That's the Gospels, the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But even leading up to the Gospels in the Old Testament, we have God who reveals himself and makes predictions and gives prophecies, and those prophecies always have come to pass. We are now in a time where we can look at those from the other end, hindsight. We can see the prophecies and we can see their fulfillment. And God, who must reveal himself, has done all this so we might believe and fear him and trust in him and dedicate ourselves to him and worship him. And he is the one who receives all glory from that. So when it comes to the existence of God, I think all of these other arguments are profitable, but ultimately, I think the best proof we have is in the authenticity and reliability of the biblical text, the Old Testament and the New Testament.